Welcome to our dedicated agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, and this is All the Leads Mastermind Podcast number 551. We're just talking about an interesting deal that one of our subscribers had this week, and we may get to that shortly. But Tim, what would you like to start with this week?
Well, I think we're going to have to start changing our who we're talking to when we start this. Shall I say just agents and investors? And I think it's becoming agents, investors, and like-minded people because of the late mortgage emphasis that we've been experiencing. Getting a lot of other folks involved in the game here, so we kind of have to look at it that way a bit.
Interesting, interesting point. However, agents and investors do help the late mortgage people, but I guess we could have loan professionals, we could have investors. So good point. I'll come up with a
Yeah.
more generic term.
Well, and if the financial planning community gets involved as well, that's
Yep.
also a part of it. So anyway, just a thought. We always kind of look at a kind of a tighter universe, and turns out that's not necessarily the case. Just a quick point to everyone. You probably, if you're in our group, you probably received an email this week in regard to our refresh program. And I hope you read that, took advantage of it. It has been a godsend for several of our people. And Matt, I'm going to ask you if you would to just kind of comment on that a little bit. And folks, it's not a commercial. This is something that, we were thrilled to have happen to basically add value long after, people had paid for and oftentimes discarded as not having any value, older leads. The refresh program kind of took over, and obviously, just real quickly, what it does is we take your older data that's in there and we run it through again to determine if, in fact, the property that is held anywhere in the country by still in the name of the decedent is still held in that name. If that is the case, then that property has not sold. And the beauty of it is if you go back and attempt to prospect to those people, you're only talking to people that you know that have property that hasn't moved, and more importantly, you're going to be the only one talking to them. So you have no competition. And that's a general statement, but in general, that's a true statement unless somebody else decides to go back and do what we're doing and we automate the process so other people aren't doing that. Matt, what's up, bud? How's it going?
It's been going great. We've actually had almost everyone that we've started calling for has, even in a matter of a day or two, there have opportunities. Just from either nurtures, people that said, hey, I haven't done anything yet. It's funny because people are like, oh, it's interesting you called. I've been thinking about this for a while. I just haven't gotten around to it. And so that's been like the probably the most, I would say, the most popular response we've gotten. And so it's been really good. I mean, we've had at least, almost everyone we call for, we get an opportunity almost instantly when we first get started calling. So it's been really great.
That's awesome.
Tim Winston asked a question there. Do you see it?
Nope.
Oh, can you go
Um,
back farther than 2 years?
yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not, right? There's no reason any lead, it's better if, I mean, we can do virtually anything, but any lead that you have not eliminated, because you've talked to them and you already know they sold the property or they're not going to sell it. Even if they just said they're not going to sell it, it'd probably still be a good candidate. But so far, we haven't gone back beyond 2 years. However, at the 2 year mark, we're finding like 25% of them are still viable leads that haven't been listed or sold. So I don't see any reason why we can't go back farther.
Well, there isn't any reason that we couldn't. And I think that the issue there is you just need to ask. If you'd like us to do that, we will. I mean, we certainly have people on this call and customers that have data that go back well past that. So there's no reason not to do it. And, it'd be really, really interesting if we found that there's another unique sweet spot, maybe 4 years out and all that, because, a lot of this, we look at it as what are the reasons that could happen? Well, it could be a surviving spouse. That's the most logical reason that a house didn't go. Somebody else is living there, and it's not going to happen. But at some point, if the spouses are the same age, or close to the same age, then, their time is, the clock is ticking on them as well. Not a really good way to say that, is there? Anyway, but the bottom line is that, they're gonna, at some point, that house is gonna get back on the market, and it's right time, right place. So there may be a sweet spot out there that we're missing, and let's take a shot at it. Winston, if you want to take a look at that, we'll go back further. Jody, if you'd get with Winston and you guys can make that happen, that'd be a great test to run, I think. Anyway,
Matt, I was thinking about this the other day, why you're having such great success with your callers. Obviously, we can refresh and the agent can call the leads themselves, but probably the reason you're having such great success is these are leads that our people either didn't call or probably more likely called 5 or 6 or 10 times and then just gave up on them. So, it kind of might be the better use of their time to call the new ones and let you call the old ones. And I think maybe that's why you're getting such good success, is because, they haven't been worked in so long. Nothing's been done on them.
And there's gold in the old. I mean, that's what it boils. I mean, we have somebody on here. I mean, I'd love for him to speak up, but I don't want to. I mean, I actually have a couple people on here that are on our program. One gentleman gave us 250 leads. We already got him 5 opportunities. So, I mean, that's a really good step in the right direction. And I mean, all of it is just because solely you get busy. You don't, as an agent, you don't have time to call. That's all our guys do. They literally sit there all day long and call, and then we monitor them. We're like, hey, where you been? 4 minutes you've been on, pause because they're making notes. We're like, what are you doing in that? Like, we monitor them and make sure that they're on it. So that really makes a huge difference. I mean, just having somebody that's constantly, consistently making the calls, and just like you said, the agents don't have time to make those calls, so that's where we come in.
Yep.
you bet. And it's just an interesting scenario. Hey, Jim, I see that Mush is on the call. You guys want to talk about that for a second?
Hey, Mosh, first of all, I wanted to set the stage. I want to congratulate you. You have been calling me once a week with an unusual late mortgage lead. And that tells me 2 things. It tells me you're making the calls. And so I'm sure you're not calling me on every lead, but if you're coming up with one unusual one a week, you're making a lot of calls and you're uncovering a lot of good opportunities. So congrats with that. And then before you came on the call, I was just telling everyone this one with the Habitat for Humanity situation. We see a lot of situations where we say, whoa, that's a long shot. I don't know that I've ever seen one before that I can't think of any solution. So maybe we got some brilliant minds on this call. Maybe somebody here has something that would work. So if you would just kind of set the stage of did you see the email I sent you just a few minutes ago, Moshe?
No, I did not. I haven't.
Okay. Well, Moshe and
I'll open that up.
Pam and I talked to Moshe. We said, get an attorney. And then I called my sister who owns a title company. And then I did the obvious. I just Googled and I got all the answers. It was right there on Google. You don't even need to chat GPT anymore. Google is almost as good. So I sent you what I had come up with on Google. But if you would, maybe just tell everybody about the deal.
Yeah. So, well, first, I just want to give you and Bill and my mother Aline a lot of credit for helping me, and Pam as well. So I was speaking to this woman who was within the late mortgage, and she was delinquent for about 120 days, and she had built up a nice amount of equity in the property, and was telling me that she was hearing from people on the attorney side and people on the lender's end that if she goes to sell she has 2 options. She either goes into foreclosure or um, the house gets sold. And this is the way she was telling it to me at first when I first spoke to her. Then it's either we take you to foreclosure or somebody's buying the property and you're not walking away with anything. So she got really frustrated with that, and her mentality turned to like just being, I'm going to stay here as long as I can. If I'm not walking away with anything, I'm just going to kind of be stubborn about it, live here as long as I can and kind of continue what I'm doing, which isn't paying. And so when I came to her with just information in terms of the possibility of her being able to sell and ultimately walk away with something more than nothing. Um, she was a
And
little
Mosh, if I could,
overwhelmed. Yeah,
if I could interrupt, you and I, we got on PropStream and we determined there's probably 120 to $150,000 equity there. There's a lot of equity.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she does. She
So,
has a lot of equity there. So, with that being said, she's been really frustrated with what she's been hearing from people on the attorney side and the lender side as well. And this is all before she told me she went through Habitat for Humanity. So when I heard that, I wasn't familiar with it whatsoever. Um, I did a nice amount of research trying to figure things out about how they work, what they are, and then also seek some help through Bill Bird, Jim, and my mother as well, and then research online. So that was really informative. And I also spoke to somebody who was on the board with them for about 12 years, gave me a lot of good information. But I have a I have an appointment scheduled to meet with her, and not to you know I'm trying to take things well, fast and slow at the same time because we do have to, in a way, be aggressive with it. But I'm also trying to balance not overwhelming her at the same time because she's never really heard what I've been telling her. So that's kind of where I'm
I,
at. I'm going to meet with her and make a big priority of getting to see the condition of the property, coming up with some comps for her, getting the her contract, getting a copy of her contract, and then a copy of her mortgage statements as well. So that's where I'm at.
I, I know Tim has some insights, but what I sent you a few minutes ago that I got just through Google was that typically Habitat for Humanity offers a zero interest mortgage, and they put a deed restriction in there. If the property's sold in less than 20 years, they not only have a right of first refusal, but they get to keep all the profit. And because Pam and you and
Yeah.
I were saying, well, how can anybody keep you from selling something? They can't do that. You own it. But the only way you can do it is with a deed restriction. It's like the bond programs have things like that. And so it looks
Yes.
like that is probably the situation. And then Tim, I know you had some insights.
Yeah, so I've actually been on a couple of builds for 2 or 3 different habitat houses, and before I did that, one of them was that our church sponsored a house, and it was only built by folks in our church, and so we did that, and everybody was all proud of doing that, and the people that got it were all happy about being there, and it's a great program, and it is a great program, and I read through the contract that the people signed, and it does have um, some things in there in regard to profit, but it does in fact allow them, at least the one that we did, allow them after a certain period of time to sell the house with the approval of the board of the grantor. Now, is the mortgage held by Habitat?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is it the habitat of that county that you're in?
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure it is. Yeah.
Okay, so typically what they're looking to go do, several things to talk about. One is that if there's that amount of equity in the property, they will typically rearrange mortgage terms. They don't want those people out of the house. Does she want to stay in the house?
Mm, yeah, I mean yeah, she does, but if she's hearing that she's going to she also doesn't like the she'd rather leave the house than go into foreclosure. So
I
that yeah.
understand. I understand. Does she have income enough to make a payment, just not that payment?
That I'm still trying to figure out. I haven't gotten into those details with her yet and exactly why it is that she's late. So those are two things that I'm gonna shoot to get answers for, but don't have them yet. So
Okay, well, I'm approaching this from a humanitarian standpoint. And Steve, I'll get to you in just a split second because I'm sure you can help me with this as well. But assuming she wants to stay in the house and you want to do a good thing for her, and here's the thing, the chances are that, at some point, that house is going to change hands. So whether you're selling it for her or the board, it doesn't matter. The issue is that if the house has to sell, someone will benefit from that equity, right? So,
hmm
you gain a lot
Yeah.
by being on her side of the game and getting inside and working with the board. So here's what I was going to say is that if you can get the answers from her in regard to income and what kind of a payment she could afford, and typically the board's not looking to kick people out. They want people in those houses. They also don't want them to go delinquent. And remember that in order to be in that house, she and her family had to put in hundreds of hours of individual labor just to be there. They helped build that house. They were there every weekend when the build was going on. They did a lot of work. So, this is a kind of a heartbreaking thing for them. Anyway, if you can get the information about that and read the specifics of her contract with the Habitat mortgage, it may have premises in there that she's not aware of. And all of them do have the ability. They can't force people to continue to live there. They also don't want them to, be in that house and then, build a lot of equity and not have that equity accessible to them. So it's not designed to do what's happening to her. It's just designed to make sure she makes her payments. So they typically will work with her more than a conventional mortgage would to fix this because it's the board, it's their money they're working with. So it's, they're the lending board. Steve, what were you going to say, bud?
Jim, same thing. Could the go back to the board, see if it can't be restructured, payments may be added on the backside. Perhaps she has family members who could help her, at least to try to get the loan to start performing again. Because, like I said, I don't see them putting her out, but then again, they're looking for some return on the investment. There has to be something there. So I think that would be the question. I think, Moshe, you got the right, between Jim and Tim, you're getting the right information. I know Bill has weighed in, and of course, you better be listening to your mother, otherwise, it's not going to be good. So it's all good stuff.
Always. Yep.
Well, and the real
Yeah.
point about this is that and to Steve's point, if you get involved and you have the opportunity to talk to the board, now you're in a unique position because she's not the only one that goes into default on a Habitat house. And a lot of people go into default and they're gone, they're out, they walk. Habitat houses get abandoned. It frequently happens because the people that are in them they're lower income to start with. It's a leg up and they don't always make it. And there is a default ratio. So if you did that, it could be a great connection for you to make for the future to work with people in Habitat. If they try to restructure and get it done and you get in early, now you potentially become a realtor of choice or an investor of choice or whatever to work directly with Habitat in the future going forward. It's a great connection to make. So it's a great position to be in. I would heartily recommend you to use it as a way to get to the Habitat board. Plus, the people on that board, they're always really good people, very influential people, and could do good stuff for you. They make a great part of your team. So this is a unique opportunity for you, man. Jimmy?
Thank you. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
all great information.
It's funny. I went saying there's no solutions, and we're already coming up with multiple solutions between this group. But what just occurred to me is the value that you have here, Moshe, because the last thing you want to do what Tim said, you want to try the kind, gentler route first. But the last thing you want is her telling the board, I'll sign it over to you if you're not gonna, work this thing out. You may have to play a little bit of hardball, and she may have to consult with the bankruptcy attorney, and because if they say no, she could end up living there for a long time for free. And it might be a carrot or a stick. The carrot might be to the board, hey, you want to do the right thing initially, but if they don't, and she threatened to get a bankruptcy attorney and fight it out, then now there might be a financial incentive for them not to have to go through all the expense of a battled foreclosure and end up having to wait a year. It might make more sense for them to say, okay, you keep some of the profit, even if they give her 10 or 20 or 30 grand. But her dealing directly with the board might not be the best thing. Having a middleman like you, and you said you're going to meet with her next Monday. That's something you could tell her that, hey, we're going to do it the nice way first. But if not, here's the plan where, you could probably live here for a while, not get foreclosed, and let me try to help you get something out of this. So you being the middleman is huge. I think it's really important for her not to deal with them directly if she can help it.
The other thing I would also add is that Habitat for Humanity boards are very, very concerned about negative publicity. So they don't want, the last thing they would want is the investigative reporter from your local TV station interviewing your customer and saying, I have $100,000 in equity in my house. I need to move. I can't afford the payments. And Habitat's holding me hostage. And they're going to take my money that I paid in all these years to get this done and yada, yada, yada. How long has she been in the house?
It's about what is it, 8 years since 2017, and she's also just to add really quickly, she's showed signs of delinquency since about March of this year. And I've also heard that Habitat modifies loans sometimes in a case like this where, they'll just restructure it to the point where she now could have an additional 6 months, or that may have happened in, closer to March, and that's how we got here. So,
Right. So, I mean, it may be that
but 8 years, yeah.
it may be that she frankly lost her job, hasn't replaced it, and doesn't have income coming in, and is existing on whatever whatever public assistance she's getting, or whatever. I mean, it's a unique group of people, but Habitat wants her to stay in that house and make payments. That's really what they're looking for. They want her to be part of the community where she is, and typically those houses are built in an area where they try to create a sense of community. So is it in a community of other Habitat houses?
Yeah, a decent, it's a very small community. It's kind of,
Well,
I wouldn't
typically,
say out in the middle. Yeah, it's not the biggest community, but they definitely have other properties that are with Habitat that have been built through Habitat, purchased through them in right in that area.
right, right.
So,
That's typically the way it is. They find an area that they can afford the land relatively inexpensively, and that's where they build. So that's, anyway, you kind of have a good sense of it, but your play here is to get all the data and then potentially intercede or help her go talk to the board. And you will likely find, if she's been having problems since March, that's a game she may have already played and hasn't lived up to her end of the deal. So, it may
mhm.
require
Yeah.
another meeting with the board and all that, but all they want to hear is a good story and they'll help. They're not looking to take that $100,000 away from her. That's not their
Yeah.
intent. Joe, what's up, bud?
Mhm.
Yes, I didn't hear it, but oh, hang on. Sorry. Um, does she have a steady income?
Oh, you're muted there, buddy.
I
You're muted.
think.
There you go.
Yeah. So I did mention that before that I don't have that information right now, and I also don't have exactly, yeah, what it is that that kind of caused her to fall back and stop paying.
Yeah,
So
because
that
usually for my, because I've dealt a lot with these foreclosures stuff, and usually there's a reason. And sometimes it's a lot of times it's not their fault. And there's different types of bankruptcy where you can just do a restructure, or sometimes you get a financial person. They got these financial things where they would take it and fix your credit and things like that. I don't even know if she's at that point yet, but they have software you can go in there and find out. But where I'm going with this, there's a lot of programs out there that the government offers for people that are in trouble, believe it or not. But most mortgage you know, don't want to tell you about it because it takes a lot more work on their part. But if you find a good mortgage person, what area are you in?
I'm in Southwest Florida.
Okay, I don't know anybody in Florida, but I'm just saying they're out there where there's a lot of government programs that will help get her out
Joe, are you aware?
for a
I,
loan.
I don't know when this is a Habitat house, Habitat for Humanity house. The mortgage holder is a Habitat for Humanities.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would think that they would not want to negotiate also.
Right. I mean, that's a little bit of a different breed of cat, so to speak. They have a whole different. Their objective is really not a for-profit objective. Their objective is to help people get a leg up and all that. And all your points are well taken. It's just that they have deed restrictions part of the
If
contract.
she's got 100,000 equity, there's no reason why she can't restructure that mortgage, okay?
Yeah,
And get the payments lower to help her out.
exactly.
Well, yeah, but there is, if there's a deed restriction in there that, it's kind of a unique case. I think you missed that, Joe, but yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
sorry.
no, that's okay. It's certainly worth looking at. There's, look at every option for sure.
Well, and
Cool.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
If it is also possible, and I've seen this done, should have brought this up before, that people are able to negotiate an early out on their Habitat mortgage and do that by coming back to Habitat and saying, I have all this equity in here and my family's gotten bigger, lots of reasons they don't logically need to stay in the house. Habitat will release them. And they'll typically do that by allowing some form of payback of the equity that's in there, so they do get some money out of the deal, but they'll let them out. And it's not that they're trying to be, they're benevolent. They're trying to help. That's their whole objective, is to help people. So I think you may find that once you get all the details with this, either she's buried herself so deep it's not going to happen, and then your play is to work with Habitat and say, hey, you're going to get this back. Why don't I go see if I can sell this for you? But the reality is that it may have $100,000 in equity because of where it is and what it is. That may be a false presumption, because if it's in a Habitat community, because of the other deed restrictions and the location, it may not be worth what the conventional comps might tell you, because there are negative aspects to being in that community. And I'm just being realistic. It typically they're great communities, but it depends on the community. Have you driven the house? Have you looked at it?
Not yet. I'm going there on Monday.
Yeah, that's also a key element. You get a lot by, no substitute for taking a look. If you can get a look at the house, you can see the community, you can see what's going on. Is it well kept? Is the community well kept? All that. Those have bearing on it. The more knowledge you have, you're always better armed with. Okay?
Sounds good. Yep. Thank you, Tim.
Great, great, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Keep making those calls and keep bringing us deals like this. We love it.
Indeed. Yeah, these kinds of, it's always interesting to the little nuances of opportunity that are out there, and that's one of the beauties of these calls. We just when we think we've heard it all, we haven't. And this is one we've, in over a decade of these calls, nobody's ever brought a Habitat house to the table. So it's all,
What occurred to me also, Tim, just like we've been pleasantly surprised at the results with the refresh program. We've heard numerous cases like this where I think with the late mortgages, people are getting a disproportionate number of leads of good leads from the leads they're calling. They seem to be a really, this year, the third or fourth person that's given us, multiple deals that they're working on with late mortgages. So if you're not getting those, you might want to take a look at those also, in addition to the refresh. And Matt will even call the late mortgage leads for you. He doesn't care. He'll call anything.
But the thing that I just want to make sure we bring up and emphasize is Moshe is making the calls. He's picking up the phone consistently and calling, which is my bread and butter. I think it was your bread and butter when you were doing it. And the consistency is great. And the follow-up is incredible. I mean, I've got a real quick story. So I had called this particular lady when her husband died, and it was a few years ago, and I kept following up with her. And then I could tell she was sick. I ended up talking to her daughter, and her daughter ended up listing the house with her friend from high school. And I said, by the way, who's that? Who I knew, the realtor. I called him, and I had a client that wanted to move his mom closer to him. And so they made an offer on a duplex. We got it at a really cheap price. And the bottom line is, because I made that extra call, I went ahead and got a deal that I probably wouldn't have gotten before, because if this house would have hit the market, or this duplex would have hit the market at that price, it would have gone real fast. So it just goes to saying, staying in touch with everybody and follow up. And the calls are never wasted. Just call, say hi, I'm checking in. Do you see anything? Do you want an updated value for your home? Hey, I did, all those little things just really pay off long term.
Great, great advice. Super. Hey, thanks for being willing to talk about your deal, bud. That's great. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it today. Hey, Bill, I'm going to ask you a quick question because this came in from one of our subscribers, and it was talking about divorce, and you're focusing on that as building a part of your practice. And they asked, the question was, when the divorced couple is in conflict, what's your best strategy for staying neutral while still being able to move a deal forward?
That's funny. I was just talking about this with Eileen. So I stay neutral. I stay in the middle. I CC them both on the same emails, or if it's really bad, I send the same email separately to each. And I also ask them, do they want me to keep their attorney informed, right? So do you want me to CC the attorney? Almost all the attorneys want a copy of the list agreement and the settlement agreement. They all want that. Even if it gets updated, they want it. So I just stay very calm, Joe neutral. I don't let anyone push a button for me. I don't say, but this is what they're saying. If normally it's about price and the time that we're going to close and move out. And if I need to cross, I keep it neutral. I say, Joe feels that this offer is very good and would like to accept it. And I understand you would like 25,000 more, but it needs a roof, right? So you just bring up really slowly, really genuinely, and you stay Joe neutral. Do not ever, ever go because it's tempting to show that, right? You just got to stay very Jody neutral. And I use email and documents to the fullest extent I can. So I try not to put myself in that situation. But they do get ugly. And when you get a judge, right, this is ugly. And the key to that one is be really clear. If the judge has appointed you, some way you want to ask the judge, do you want to be CC'd on the emails? Normally, he doesn't want to know it. He wants the listing agreement, the estimated closing, and when it closes, he wants a final HUD one. So, but you got to be careful with that. So, and then when the judge gets appointed, then you're almost talking to the attorneys more than you are to the sellers.
One of the things that we're finding as we grow our divorce community, which is growing pretty rapidly now, is that a lot of divorcing couples, there is some degree of mediation that's going on. They're talking to a mediator. Either they're talking to a mediator about their relationship, which often happens in the very beginning, or they're talking to a mediator to settle their differences and to find a way to come to a conclusion. And do you ever get involved in that discussion with the mediator, talking with them about property and all of that?
Well, they will call me, and normally they want the CMA, a net sheet, and how long do you think it's going to take you to sell the property, right? And if you're going to ask for a price reduction, um, when and what would that be? I'm surprised a lot of times you get your price reduction if the mediator is involved right away. But yeah, I've seen that, and all the ones I've dealt with have been amazing, right? Just amazing because I mean, they have this calm personality that's amazing to me. But the other thing that I've been thinking about I think we should be marketing to these people because they're looking for a realtor that's going to communicate really quickly, give them a good price, but it's going to sell price, right? And I do think at this market, you need to be at 90% of what you think the value is to entice everybody to buy, to get the buyers through. It's just the way it is. If If you overprice, you're not selling.
So it's great that you said what you said, because kind of where I was going to lead this to. One of the things that I saw the other day that I thought might be an interesting thing for people to add to their toolkit as they do this in divorce is a mediator fact sheet, and have it ready on every deal. Once you get into the deal, have a mediator fact sheet ready. Even if you never send it to the mediator, you could tell the couples, typically things like this happen. And, I always prepare a fact sheet because often I work with mediators. Would you be interested in seeing what I put on the mediator fact sheet? And it's all the data that you just talked about, including, the market pieces, all of it. But it again shows your degree of professionalism. And for you, if you do it the first time, all you're doing is changing a bit of the data, and it's a pre-prepared form. So it may be.
I I think that's a great idea, because what I really like about my probates is sending them the check sheet, right? That really helps them out. I mean, it definitely gets the phone ringing. I totally agree with that.
Well,
You
and you
know,
look like a pro.
right, exactly. You look like that's a great idea. I would love to get the document and get that going like today. Um, and then the other thing is really what I found in divorces is you have the couple went to dinner, went for a walk, they decide they don't really love each other anymore, but they like each other and they're going to go their separate ways. And that is very easy. It's very cooperative. It's just a normal transaction, right? And you can see them. That's really great. Then you have the other one where one feels like they're getting screwed or this was something happened. I'm not getting all of those details. It's kind of ugly. And that's where you got to really kind of stay Joe neutral, but um, uh, it's moving along forward, right? But if you get the judge, that is really ugly. It's just really ugly. The other thing is I really learned when it's the hostile situation and there's kids involved, you want to make sure you walk into that listing appointment with whoever's going to get the kids or with both of them with some rentals so they could stay in the same community. I've seen that really sets you apart when you go in with your listing presentation from other agents.
Well,
Yeah.
you made a point there as well, Bill. One of the things that I'm going to actually ask you to do, because you're going to be working with us to, create some of our training material around the divorce side of this. And one of the things I think we need to be doing is to prepare agents and investors to have a checklist of things that they need to know, things they need to be asking to, prepare for dealing with people like that. Jimmy, I know I'm going to get to you in just a second, bud.
Over.
Anyway, all I'm saying is that strategically going after this and having a system that you use to do it is what's important. And you're great at doing that. You're very process oriented. So I think that's important.
Emis. Before we go to Jim, I just want to say is you have the deal when you give them a CMA and a net sheet and you hear over the phone that they got it and you hear a sigh of relief, or you're in the listing presentation and they see those two things and you can see some type of relief happen in the body, you have that listing right then and there.
Indeed. Jimbo.
Yeah, you answered part of my question. I think one of the things at the top of the check sheet should be hostile, if so, on whose part, or is it friendly? Because it's gonna take a different road. When I've never really worked divorce as a niche, and I'm curious on the hostile ones. Do you have a way of keeping it businesslike? It seems to me like one or more parties is going to want to vent all their grievances on you. So you either have to find a way to keep it businesslike, or do you just listen and pretend? If Bruce was here, he'd probably have some good phrases that makes you appear like you're agreeing without doing so. But do you find yourself having to listen and somewhat empathize, or do you usually are you usually able to cut it off and kind of keep it business like? What works better?
So it's kind of like foreclosure. You just gotta listen, right? I mean, because you can't be short in business. Like the a lot is their personality, right? Personality plus, caloric, alpha. You got to kind of figure it out. But overwhelmingly, I just listen and let them get it all out. Then I wash it away, and I never bring up anything on the other side. It's all about the transaction, and just make sure your communication is fantastic on all ends. If you can't figure out that you need to keep them both informed. I'm talking about everything. How many showings, how many people showed up to the open house, all disclosures, everything, right? You need to just be Joe neutral and make sure you keep both attorneys. If you're sending something to one attorney, send it to other, or if they had a mediator, CC the mediator, right?
That would be painful for me because I want to like get to the point, but I know if you get somebody who needs to vent and you can be that person, and
Exactly.
you can listen
Exactly.
without exactly. Good.
Yeah,
And I'm
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
So I do have a divorce. This is prior to where I really work. So they're going on their third year of negotiations. So it can go all sorts of way. But what I've learned is that when it's hostile, everybody's getting an attorney, and those bills just get really big.
perfect.
Yeah, I think, you know, even both of the kind of situations we've talked about today, they're they're all things where more knowledge is necessary, more knowledge in every case is necessary. Data is your friend, and also that there's a certain degree of you got to get inside their skin a little bit. You got to know what's making them tick, what's the motivation, what happened. Obviously, divorce is often fraught with it's one of two things. If there's infidelity involved, then there is, kind of the worst kind of emotion involved in it. And the longer it's gone on and all that, the harder it is. If it is hey, like you said, Bill, we still like each other, but this isn't working anymore. Well, then that's a whole different way to find an agreement. Now you're kind of into let's make a good thing for both of us financially, and sizing that up and knowing, what buttons have already been pushed before you got involved, going to tell you how to react there. I mean, if they're still, uh, care about each other and they just want the best for, to come out of it for the best, well, then you've got a great game, you got a great story to tell. However, if they're at each other's throats and hate each other, you're walking a tightrope. And if you fall off on one side or the other, you've made an enemy out of the other half. So anything that you're going to suggest is not going to be received well. You got to be really, really careful about doing that. And I think that's kind of the
Well,
key element there.
I had one of my first ones. It was pretty ugly. Infidelity was involved, but at the end of the day, they both used me to buy a house. That was a shocker to me. That was a complete shocker. So don't think that they're not going to come back to you, or it's just one deal, right? I mean, it's definitely a future deal, right? So
Bill,
Yeah.
if you're working divorce leads, one of our other subscribers told us he does this, and I don't know if you adhere to this or not, but he said he would have a conversation with one spouse, and then when he called the other one, he wouldn't necessarily even reference that he'd already spoken to the other spouse because they both might have a tendency to want to be the one to pick the realtor. Is that playing games, or would you be honest and just say I just spoke to your ex?
So, if it's an amicable one, a lot of times they'll just say, "Why don't you call Jesse?" Right? Normally, I get the wife, right? But I do, if I talk to one and I didn't get permission to talk to the other one, I do call and I don't mention the other one. So
Gotcha.
it just kind of has worked out that way for me, right? Because I don't know what the situation is. I'm just trying to be of maximum service. To be honest with you, when I call them, I'm not worried about being chosen. I'm more worried about can I be of service to them. It's just the way it goes. Like, I cannot tell you, I'm going to say this a million times. a CMA, a net sheet seems to get these people going and the loyalty on them. And by all means, make sure your CMA says your name on the bottom of it and the net sheet says your name on the bottom of it. All right. Make sure your name's all over the place. Also, HomeBot has been fantastic because you can see how many times they're going in and looking at the value. And sometimes on the bottom of it, these are the people I haven't talked to, they request a CMA. And I've said before, go give them a full listing presentation, right? I put in a leather binder, I put in a very nice quality box, and I drop it off at the front. I did do the FedEx thing, but the FedEx guy takes it sometimes. So don't leave in the FedEx envelope. It's a bad thing. But just go ahead and do that.
Bill, is HomeBot? I'm not familiar with HomeBot. And is
Yeah,
that
so
relatively new?
yeah, so HomeBot is an online automatic evaluation. It's very cheap. It's $35 for 500 people. And what it says, if the people opt into it, is they go ahead and uh, it sends them their market value, right? Automatically. You can also tune it up if you want, right? But then it also sends, in 2 weeks later, a market report. And every month, it sends them a new value on their house. Every month, it sends them another, and it has your name all over it. It's fantastic. And there's a box that says, do you have questions for Bill? Or request a CMA, right? So if they're on your divorce list, man, you got to go. Do not hesitate. Get
And that's not
type that
35 a
sucker
month.
up and go drop it off.
It's 35, not 35 a month. It's 35 for 500 uses.
No, it's $35 a month. Now the
Okay.
pricing might have changed. I mean, I have more, I have a lot more. I probably have 3,000 people in there right now, um, it's 3,500, I mean $35 per month for 500. And keep in mind, you're going to have people you opt out, and you want to go on there and delete the people that aren't using it at all, depending on whether they opted out, opted in. It's great. I think Bruce uses HomeWise.
And that's brilliant. Any listing appointment you go on that you don't get
Well,
until you disqualify it, you probably should just leave them in there, right?
well, the greatest thing about divorce, I know this is the greatest thing about ATL, right? When I started, you would download onto a CSV file, kind of sort it, you would use your mail merge, or you would, about or ATL, whatever you want to do. But you really had to kind of clean it up, whatnot. Now on divorce, there's still glitches here. You just go download, right? Download. Um, you can select the ones that have property, then you clean it up, and you have one Excel spreadsheet for 100 people. You upload it into HomeBot in one bulk email, and you got to go through to check them all out. But I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I don't know any other lead system that has as much technology with emails, downloadability. It's just amazing. It doesn't matter whether you put it in Excel or Home, it all works in your systems. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I realize I'm a coach here, but as far as the technology, and I've used other systems, you guys have come so far, and I'm not getting paid to say this. You've come so far and have made me so much money. It has just been amazing
Hey,
for me.
Bill,
And
is
I
that
love
something?
divorce. I love divorce because I feel like I am the maximum benefit. Probate, it's kind of a little more of a process.
Hey, Bill, do you think that would be worth having us reach out to them and create an automated push the magic button, send everybody to HomeBot?
Absolutely.
I think we'll look into that. Jody, can you just make a note of that and maybe we'll see about doing that? I think that might be a cool idea to do.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great service and that's very inexpensive.
Yeah, well, the other thing I like is the fact that with ATL, you can change your envelopes, your size, you can move that all around, so you don't look the same all the time without any effort.
Yep. Yeah, we've come a long way too since the very beginning. And
I
unfortunately,
remember the dot matrix letters.
yeah, unfortunately, in the very, very beginning, I was the one who did our first letters for the group. It was one of the things I was just messing around with, and we began losing customers because they weren't sending their letters out because, so well, just do a mail merge. And they're like, huh? I'm like, well,
Well,
not that hard.
I'll bore you, Bill. I'll bore you with a boring story. I was the original sales team. At one time, I had 300 or 400 printed sheets of paper on my desk. I had them arranged alphabetically and according to how good the lead was. So somebody'd call, that's a hot lead. Let me ask it. I'd be searching through. So yeah, we've come a long way. And Tim used to walk both ways to work through a snowstorm too every day. So
Uphill through glass. Absolutely, yeah. Hey guys, we've got 5 minutes left on our hour. We're being really good lately about staying within our hour. So I would ask if anybody has a question or an observation or anything that they'd like to throw out there for our last 5 minutes. We'll be glad to take them. I didn't start by asking that, and I should have. But obviously, we typically make it your call, but this time we sort of took off on some tangents that kind of got us going with what we needed to do today. So I hope this was of value. And Katie pointed out, Katie says, HomeBot is free for a solo agent if you don't have a sponsor. So I think we will try and reach out to them and see what we can do about maybe automating that process, not just for divorce, but for all of our lead types. Hey, David, how you doing there, bud? Unmute yourself and you'll get the last call today.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm turning my camera on. I apologize. Okay. I have a few wins to put out there.
Great way to end it. Let's hear
Yeah,
it.
it's been a while since I've been with you guys. I missed y'all.
Good.
I wholesale mobile homes inside of mobile home parks, and I'm also doing residential also. August, I signed a mobile home and made a $11,000 assignment fee. And then this month I did another mobile home, and that one was an $8,000 assignment fee. And I did a single family house on Monday, and that one was a $10,000 assignment fee. And then I have another closing November. It's supposed to be set for November 13th, and that one is a $30,000 assignment fee. So, yeah, and that's all. They're all pretty much like from driving for dollars. But I have to take a certain percentage out of these deals, and I wanted to get some probate leads from you guys or like divorce leads.
So David, talk about assignment fees and how you go about negotiating that.
How do I negotiate my assignment fees?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good. I don't really know how to answer that. Like, what do you mean? How do I negotiate my assignment fees?
How do you determine what that fee is going to be?
Oh, it's just simply the difference between the price that I set with the seller, how much they want in their pocket, and then the price that I'm selling it to my cash buyer or investor for, and I just collect the difference. So that's technically how I collect my assignment fee as a wholesaler.
Okay, cool beans.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to be sure everybody understood what you were talking about, because not often a term that we bandy about on these calls. So
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's
I'm
great.
happy I was able to say that.
Great. Congratulations, bud. We're
Thank you.
happy to hear you're doing well.
I appreciate it.
I hear some of our wholesalers, I think they're a little bit too picky. Like I've heard them say, I don't touch anything unless I make $50,000.
Mhm.
You just mentioned in a couple months, you just made $49,000 on 4 deals.
Correct.
The money still cashes the same way, and it's probably easier to do the ones with the smaller spreads than the big ones often. So not necessarily.
To be fully transparent with you, Jim, my bigger spreads are much easier than my smaller ones. I don't know why. It's like a little mind-boggling to me, but that's just my personal experience. I can't say that's how it is in general.
What's the biggest one you ever did on an assignment?
That was March of last year. It was a single family house here in my county of Burlington County, New Jersey, for $42,300.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yep,
That's
that was my
awesome.
first single family assignment.
And David, you said you're just doing driving for dollars. What typically those 4 deals, what was the source? You just drove around. You identified a property that looked like it was in distress, or how did you find them?
So the one that I did last year for the 42K, that was a driving for dollars. To be honest with you, Jim, I honestly was, I put together a list of pre-foreclosures. So I would just go on Google Maps and just put in the addresses and create a route. And they technically, I don't know, they use the term reverse driving for dollars. So I was doing that. When you already have a list and you're targeting the specific list, I did that. But I would drive for dollars while reverse driving for dollars at the same time. That's how I came across the $42,000 wholesale deal that I did doing that.
Yeah, you mentioned getting other lead lists from us, but I think the late mortgage would be good for you too. It's going to be very similar, but probably with a lot less competition. Do you run in? Yeah, so I'll have somebody. I know you're in our system. You've been with us forever. We'll have somebody reach out to you after the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Well, can I just say one last thing, Jim?
Please.
I was going to ask, do you guys plan on doing this, or do you know anyone who already does that has like a what would you call, I guess, like a fire damage list? I've been trying my hardest to find that, like fire damage properties, because that's where my biggest assignment fee came from. So and a lot of people, I'm not going to say a lot of people, but a few people I've spoke to that had fire damage properties, they like needed to sell their house like very quickly, and like 30% of them didn't have like insurance on their home, and they needed a lot of help, and they didn't even know they really didn't even know where to start to even get out of the situation. So I was going to ask, do you guys ever plan on providing that list, or anyone that does? Or
I'm not aware of anybody that provides it, but I can tell you where to get it. I can tell you where to get it where you are, and it depends. But if you'll check with the Burlington County Fire Department, they will typically give you, or you can get a feed of the call list. It's public data. So you could potentially take the Burlington County Fire Department residential contact list of things they've done, and every month just run that list.
Okay, Tim, I appreciate that. So here in Burlington County, we have like individual fire departments like in each town. There's one source that I can go to get like information from each one, or
I don't know what it is in your particular county, and part of it because in Burlington County, when I was there, every county, every municipality has a volunteer fire department, and that's where that comes from. So I would just start checking with, kind of look at where do you want to find property. Check with that volunteer fire department or that firehouse. Just show up. And say, this is what I do. I help people that do this, and make friends with the fire department, and you'll get the info.
Okay, Tim, I highly appreciate you saying that. I'll do that because sometimes I see the firefighters outside when I'm walking my dog, so I'll probably just approach them then. Thank you. I'll do that.
Absolutely, go for it, man.
I appreciate you.
Come back and let us know how that goes out, and it'll be great to hear you get some good success with it.
I will do. I appreciate you, boss.
All right, man. Be good. Hey, we've made it a little bit over our time today. This is interesting. We explored some interesting areas today that we've never talked about before. I love it when that happens. Mr. Jim, it is your time to do your thing, brother.
All right, another great call today. I guess if there was one common theme, it's take action, you get results. Make your calls, and you're going to get good leads. That was common from everybody who shared today. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to particularly thank Moshe, Tim, Aline, Bill, Steve, Connor, Winston, Tim, Joe, Katie, and David for actively participating. And I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you. Maybe go stop the next fire truck you see going by, might be one of them. But take one idea that inspired you, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.
Hey, Bud Thompson, I'm going to call you.